Well, hello and welcome everybody to the Cycling Esports UK Championships of 2025. I'm your host, Nathan Guerra. Anna Russell sat next to me virtually coming out of New Zealand. Anna, super excited for this one. Super happy for what Cycling Esports UK has put together pretty quickly for a championship this year.
Yeah, this is amazing, isn't it? It's really great to see these sort of more nation groups coming together and being able to race. I love it. So obviously I would love to be racing this kind of thing too. I love these kind of events, but second best option is being with you in commentary, Nathan. And it's a really great lineup we've got today and a great course too on the outer Scotland. I've just been looking at the maps and thinking, yes, it's going to be quite attritional, a bit of a classics feel to it.
Yeah, and one also point I definitely want to make is a big shout out to everybody that's come together to make this happen. Restart presented by Alex Coh, ZMS, who are currently on for the distribution channel, LMNT, as well as powered by Lead Out today. Really cool to see all the big, a lot of the big organizations in the community of virtual cycling and esports coming together to make this happen. But let's go ahead and take a quick look at the course and how things are going to be playing out here today in the outer Scotland loop for a championship. As you can see on the route, it is going to be outer Scotland, and we're talking about a points race today. It's all about preems. It's not going to be about just first across the line at the end of this 3 laps. You're going to have points on breakaway, bray, reverse for 3 times. You're going to have the Clyde kicker for 3 times, and then you're going to be having the final of the champion sprint. At the bottom there, you can see the lap. That is going to be 1 lap and where those will be. So breakaway, bray, reverse, kind of a steady little uphill punch there. The Clyde kicker going to be a much sharper one before they hit the champion sprint in that Glasgow crit course, and then start their lap all over again for the total of 3. So Anna, I think kind of a sprinter's paradise a little bit. At the same time, trying to get away might be able to secure you a lot of points if you want to break the sprinters.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, that Clyde kicker climb is a great one if you can time it right and then sort of keep the push going a little bit over the line and then keep it into that descent, especially on this last lap, because that could take you all the way to the finish line. We have seen riders go before at that point. I do think a sprinter, but what I'd call maybe a punchy sprinter, you know, the likes of someone who's got a really good 1 minute power, particularly on breakaway, bray, reverse as well. So being able to sort of ramp it up at a really hot pace early on and then sprint off of that. You know, I'm looking at the likes of maybe a James Barnes type of a rider where they can make it over that sort of climb. So yeah, the finish line, definitely that sprinter with a little bit of descent leading into it. But otherwise, I don't know. I'm going to go for more of a punchy rider.
Let's go ahead and take a quick look at how those points will be distributed across the day. Breakaway, bray, reverse is going to be 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1 through first through fifth only. So there is a limitation on the points. We're not talking all the way through 10, all the way through 15. You've got to be in that top 5 to score anything, but it does give a lot of opportunity for a race of attrition a little bit too, right? Like you could score big points early on, a lot of 5s, but then it starts to maybe fade in the legs. Somebody who's reserved something for later on, you can grab a big 10 at the finish line. So there is a large distribution to defend position. This is something we actually talked about in the draft a little bit last week. And this idea that you have the ability to defend the points or extend your lead or be able to make your way back into the competition through points that are readily available out on course more times than once or twice.
Yeah, you're right, Nathan. I think people are just getting really smart around how they target these points. Do want to make clear too, it is first across the line points. So we're not looking at fastest through segment, it is first across the line. And so you'd have a look at a strategy maybe where you go really hard in the first lap and you mop up a lot of points and you get a good advantage. And then potentially recover for the second lap and then maybe go for it again on one of the first points options in the third lap. Or maybe you just leave the third lap completely to chance and go for finish points. So there's a lot of different ways you can approach it, but I would anticipate lap number 1 will be very hot as people try to get runs on the board early.
Let's go ahead and take a look at our notable riders today. First of all, with the men up front. Anna, what's going on with these men's picks?
Yeah. So here's our full field of the men, and we can see the women there as well. They'll be coming up after the men's race. But yeah, I think I got in too early with my picks, and there were a couple of late joiners. I can see Ed Laverick there now. So I've got Ed Laverick. I loved watching him in the Zwift games. I just thought he really lit it up. He gets off the front. He's aggressive. But then you've got the likes of James Barnes and David Goodall. I don't know if you remember on the downtown eruption route, these two went off early. So even though they're racing here in a UK championship, they're actually both living in New Zealand. So I see them racing a lot, and they may work together a little bit like we saw recently. So yeah, these are my three picks, and I think one of those will win absolutely over yours, Nathan.
Well, David Goodall, if he does take this down, me and him are going back and forth a little bit in my own racing. So I'm kind of secretly rooting for Goodall a little bit. So, that would be a big win actually for David Goodall if he's able to throw down today against some of these top riders. Because Ewan Mackey, Thomas Perrin, and Jamie Philpott, all of them definitely riders, especially Perrin, who have some Palmares, have won at the highest level. Perrin, I think, is going to be hard to go past him today if he sets things up well out there and doesn't end up in a situation where a couple of big rulers do get away from him. Jamie Philpott, always somebody who can work on the front. I'm going to see if maybe he can take that FTP and put it to work today, because that is definitely where he shines, is in a situation where it's just difficult in the racing and attritional rather than maybe not so much that sprint. Versus somebody like Ewan Mack, who's got 13:30 for 15 seconds. So go ahead and take a look at the ladies, though.
Yeah, so the ladies' race will be coming. Oh.
Jumping over to the ladies here real quick. Charlotte Cochloff for your pick there. Anna, Heather Shanks, and Natalie Stevenson. Talk to me a little bit about those.
Yeah, so again, I think I really missed the boat there without picking Maria Holdcroft, who I'd called the silent assassin all through the Zwift games that we were commentating on, Nathan. And yes, a little bit gutted she's not on my list, but I'm very happy with Charlotte Colclot, Heather Shanks, and Natalie Stevenson. I think just looking at, some of their 15-second powers and 1 minutes, we know that they could get up there, maybe a little bit more of a dark horse compared to Maria's massive 15-second power numbers, which obviously are a lot higher than everybody else's. But yeah, I think just coming from the road and mountain bike background for Heather Shanks, that puts her in a good position with the sort of rolling, punchy terrain. And then we look at Natalie Stevenson, really good on track, hill climbs, TT. She's kind of just got everything in her back pocket she could use today. And Charlotte, maybe a bit of a dark horse. She's a previous road racer, but now she does focus on esport, and she does like the rolling courses, which is exactly what we've got on board for today.
Well, I had to double look. I had to do a double take actually with the fact that you didn't pick Maria Holdcroft when we were doing our picks. I was like, well, thanks a lot, Anna. Just handed me the Holdcroft here because she, I think, is an out and out favorite today. She would have to have a bad day or something, in my opinion, to not take the win down. But it's racing. You got to race the race, right? And so there's other people out here. And this Tammy Lewis-Jones and Kirsty Herbert-Smith, both of them are flying under the radar, in my opinion. Tammy Lewis, she loves the hill climb championships. She gets into those. So be on the watch out for her. I think both her and Kirsty are upstarts that may be able to have a good race out here today. Look out for them for perhaps a podium, if not challenging a little bit. So two picks that I would say fly under the radar and haven't been at the top level necessarily, but get a chance today to maybe shine. So let's jump right down into the men's race. They're jumping out onto the Scotland World and into the first time through that champion sprint. As you can see them taking off out on course. Plenty of riders today showing up for the men. Great to see a pretty strong pack out here. I think that this was organized with just about a month and a half to 2 months, and the uptake has been absolutely awesome to see.
Yeah, and look at these guys sitting there in their pain caves. I just saw Steve Jukes there have his keyboard up. Man, that's a dangerous time when the sweat comes down. If you sweat onto that keyboard, we've talked about that before, and you inadvertently push a button that you don't want to. And we've got the first Breakaway Bray reverse coming up at 5.6 kilometers. So keep an eye on that, because that's going to be our first opportunity for them to get some points. At the moment, I'm seeing a lot of, is that the next jersey in there or restart. There are a lot of riders in that jersey. I'm just wondering if there may be some team elements we can talk to today as well after this first points battle, because I do see a lot of the Wahoo as well. So many teams coming together and supporting this race. Awesome to see.
Yeah, Ian Mackey, David Goodall, I'm seeing here as well. I mean, there's a lot of these riders. Ed Laverick. I'm looking for a couple of others here that all ride for restart. That is going to be Laverick making the first moves actually very early, and that's what Laverick needs to do. He's not going to be able to challenge for these points if it just comes straight to the line. You're talking about a 200-meter sprint. He needs a breakaway situation to grab some points, a reduced field. If he's amongst five, he's at least grabbing points out there, and then continues to make this race as hard as he possibly can because he does not necessarily have a massive kick on him. So if he can wear everybody down and find himself in a situation where people are just suffering and use his high FTP, that's going to work within his advantage.
Yeah, and what a great place to go too. I remember this is where Lucy Charles Barkley actually went and managed to get away, but not in this race. It's strung out. But did you see how many orange numbers there were just for everybody to get back on terms? They know the danger man that is Ed Laverick off the front. And there's a little bit of a gap here now, actually, with Perrin, is it with Gene Rock? They've broken away. They've managed to break the little bit of rubber band there, but we see a real concerted effort for the other riders to get up. And a couple of groups on the road, I think they will come together as they'll sort of round over this little crest, have a bit of momentum on a slight downhill. But yeah, that was attacking pretty early, I'd have to say, from Ed Laverick. I thought he would have done that closer to the points, which is coming up in about 4 kilometers.
Carrie Pritchard now off the front for Zed Sun. Some of these names that we're going to start seeing here are going to be newer to the elite fields level, and that's great to see. I would definitely put Carrie Pritchard in amongst it, Arnaud, as well as Jean Roch. It's great to see a couple of riders that may not be featured at the level of Zwift World Series or Zwift Games being able to show themselves and what they have in and amongst the crew like this. Now another counterattack. Here comes Laverick again. I get the sense that this is going to be Laverick all day. If it's not going fast enough, it's not difficult, he's going to just keep sending it over and over again. And I do think it's because if he waits for Breakaway Bray, he's not going to get those points, and he needs points early on. And so he needs to see some separation here. And I get the sense that he could counter Breakaway Bray on the first one, but if he waits too long, the points are just going to start disappearing out on course. And the opportunity to collect them you need them like we saw in Zwift Games. You're going to need them early and often.
Yeah, they're only 3 kilometers away from this points, but I would have to say these moves by Ed Laverick, he's basically just being a lead out man. You know, everyone's still managing to get on his wheel. He's not creating a huge amount of clear air. He's getting a little bit now with James Barnes chasing just from behind. It's very confusing with James Barnes because he's got a Union Jack flag next to his name. I'm so used to the South African flag, but he actually has parents from the UK and is a citizen, I think we're saying. So that's why we're seeing him in there. But Ed Laverick, you can see that camera now. It looks like he's almost in a sauna with that wood all around him. Towel right next to him, some fans on his face. He does have an okay 15-second, probably not the 1300 we saw from some of the other riders in this field. But yeah, it's this 5 to 1 minute that is his strength, and he's making it hard, but like I said, almost just leading them out. He really needs to try and actually break away before we get to these first points.
100%. And, the sections that it is uphill, that is where he's putting the power down, trying to make the separations happen. It's a good point, though, Anna, that maybe waiting a little while, but maybe he has confidence today that he can dictate this race. Maybe the reality is he's like, look, not everybody else is going to be able to dictate this race. Or perhaps you're right. Restart might be showing up with a plan. They've got a lot of team members here, and Ed is saying, look, if I can get away, great. But guess what? Next, they're going to have to chase me down. Wahoo are going to have to chase me down. Some of these other teams, Level, are going to have to chase me down. And because of that, perhaps Restart keeps sending him. And good if you can get away, that's a plus. But if you can't, at least the rest of our riders are sitting in, and we're using up the legs of the top teams like Next, presented by Insured, Wahoo, as well as Level, trying to make sure that they don't just sit with a whole lot of firepower. Jay Glass now to the front, Carrie Pritchard. That's great to see. Zed Sun, that's a team we don't often see with the teammates at a high level like this. That's a whole nother conversation to be happening.
Yeah, that's really good to see Zed Sun out and about. And I'd have to say, I'm looking at the chat coming through from the live stream. Tune in there and have some comments because there's a lot of people supporting the level riders. So that's a fan favorite out there at the moment as we see a couple of people breaking off the front. Now, this isn't where the points are, but this is a great place to put in a pre-attack. And it looks like Valance up at 11.5 watts per kg, really pushing hard. But look at this coming through over the top with the yellow and pink trons, Picard, Hamilton, all coming over the top and really stretching out this pack. Now, remember, this isn't actually where the points are. They've still got about 1 kilometer to go, but this is a way to break the rubber band, get away, and we're seeing distinct groups on the road now, about 3 of them, as those trailing riders must be in panic mode.
See, Valence, Electric Spirit Code, not a rider I'm exactly familiar with. We're going to have to do a little bit of research on this one because this is a rider that may be able to have a breakthrough ride out here today. A little bit of a gap, actually. Will there be continuance for Valence? Now gets up into 1.4 watts per kilogram. Actually not using the super tuck. Now maybe looking for it. Is this over 54 kilometers per hour? I'm not sure. Yep, he gets into a little bit of a tuck for a moment there. Now Hamilton up and over the top, it looks like with Jean Roch. It's going to be covering that, the whole pack right there. So now Jean Roch up at a 7.6 watts per kilogram. Jean Roch here. Now, this is going to be interesting for Arnaud because why on the front for Arnaud? He does not have any teammates actually at this point doing the reverse already. 17 watts per kilogram coming from Jean Roch. Huge effort. He may be able to just walk away with this one, but here comes Hamilton with the lead out. Hamilton now 11 watts per kilogram. The man from Scotland here trying to bring this back. We're on to the breakaway reverse. The first 5 points, 13 watts per kilogram coming from Hamilton. Hamilton from level trying to chase this down. I don't think they're going to be coming over the top of this. I think these points might be gone as Jean Roch continues on, but this is a massive effort for these 5 points. No, it's Hamilton from Scotland. Hamilton makes it happen for the 5 points. Perrin, I think, just might have nipped the 3.
Oh, John Roch just completely died with about 50 meters to go and got past. I don't even know if he'll be in the points when we see those points come up. He got swamped at the line. That was so competitive. And now we see a break, and he has got to get back on terms because these riders are going to head up the road. They're going to be going on a downhill now and can actually get away. Let's have a look at this replay.
Yeah, Jean Roch here with a massive kick early on. It was just a little, he should have used I mean, really, if he would have waited, he had such a massive kick, but it was just an early go at it here. Maybe that was everything he had for some early points fading. Now Hamilton comes on through. I don't think Perrin was able to nip necessarily. We'll have to wait, though. The points will be coming through in a minute and see what Perrin was able to pull off there. I think Thomas Perrin was able to grab 3 points rather than 4. Hamilton with the massive kick at the end, perfectly timed as it sped up. As you could see, he did his main kick as it sped up onto the flat sections. So, that was the timing that was needed. Now, is this going to be a counterattack? Because that's what you want to see if you're, let me guess, Ed Laverick? Is that what's going on here? I mean, I would be really surprised if it wasn't.
I'd said Laverick. Of course it is. Great time to attack too. He knows his timing. This is actually a great place to go. Everyone's a little bit smoked after that sprint. They're heading into a little bit of an uphill. This is the kind of course where it just goes up and down and up and down. Like we said, very rolling, very hard to kind of get in a rhythm, but you can pick great places to attack off the front. Now, the next one we've got is the Clyde Kicker points at 9.4 kilometers. That's only 2 kilometers away. Can these guys recover in time? And looking at this live leaderboard, what great functionality here, seeing this come through. Gary Hamilton with the 5 points. Thomas Perrin, one of your picks, Nathan, with 4. Paul Carr on 3. Ryan Drummer on 2nd. And Seri Pritchard on 1 point. So there we go. That's who's taking the lead thus far in the race.
And Perrin, well timed there. Oh, did you see Perrin at the last moment too? I mean, that was sniper. Like really, really solid. Now, interesting to see Laverick on the front here getting 3 seconds. It was only 3 watts per kilogram for a second. What's up with Valence? Valence being from Electric Spirit Co. maybe thinking, look, nobody else is going to do anything. This is on you guys. Clive Valence here. Maybe thinking, I've got to make something happen because if the other teams aren't chasing this down, I don't have anybody with me to chase this down. I want to be involved here. Now, Perrin, though, gives him a solid little kick up into 9 watts per kilogram, not wanting Laverick to get too much room. Perrin up into 7.7 actually for a moment there, as I think Perrin is very interested in taking that speed high over the top here in order to bring Laverick back within striking distance, bring it back down to 3 seconds, it looks like. Valence now with a nice little kick to get back on terms. That's going to drop Josh Power and Dean Cunningham actually off the back just a tad. They bring it back to 3 seconds for Laverick, now 2 seconds seconds, as you can see. But do they continue on? They are going to just barely get back on turns. Now, this little uphill on over toward the Clyde kicker is a section where if there is not a concerted effort from the pack, he could extend himself and grab the points over the top to Clyde kicker. Nice little move here, I think, from Laverick if he continues on. But Barnes says no, back to 6, and they're chasing on the front.
Yeah, I don't know if this will stay away. He's kind of just left hovering out there on the front by the other riders. I think they know that it's going to be a pretty full-on kick coming up with this Clyde kicker at 9.4 kilometers, not long, about 600 meters, going to take this turn into the sort of Scotland township of this route, go up the Clyde kicker. Now, that might be a place we could see Ed Laverick go again that could be a little bit more successful, but this lap 1 is hot. I'm seeing a lot of comments coming in from the live chat just saying, how are they going to hold this on for lap 2 and 3? Those numbers were crazy, and I think be prepared to see some other huge numbers coming up here as they take this left-hander. They'll go down a little bit, maybe recover if we see another attack off the front from Philpott. He's making some good gains here, already 2 seconds up on Perrin, who was chasing behind, with Gene Rock again hitting some huge orange numbers to try and get back on terms.
I like this move from Philpott. This is his kind of move, actually. He's got a very good VO2 max type effort. I said, watch out for FTP/VO2 max type efforts from this rider. He's got 4 seconds. I don't think they're bringing back 4 seconds here, actually, over the top of this. I think this is a free 5 points for him, essentially. Not free. He had to work really hard for him, but it was perfectly timed. He knew he couldn't take them to the line. Jamie Philpott walks away with 5 points. Nicely done. Level 79 Zwifter, as you can see here, 815 watts. Now, 815, that's not going to do it against some of these top riders here. Perrin's going to come on through with 14 watts per kilogram, though. But if Jamie can keep on sniping those with these like 1K to go or 800 meters to go, 500 meters to go even, he might be able to continue to pull these off. Nicely done by Jamie Philpott. I think that's going to be Perrin for second, though.
Yeah, he's not slowing down. He's still at 5 watts a kg here. As we look at the replay, this was Jamie Philpott, made a great move as they headed into the Scotland town and just got a little bit off the front. 5 seconds, though, with Perrin chasing hard behind. He retained his second place, and you've picked pretty well there, Nathan. He's managing to grab quite a few points in this lap number 1. He'll have a great lead, I'd imagine, as we see the live points coming up shortly. But look at that. Pretty close from P2 to P5.
And now the whittling effect is starting to happen. This group is going to start really, I think, suffering into this second lap. I think the reality of those kicks over the top of each one of those sprints, I think there's also the reality of just the amount of speed and power that has had to been put down into this course, that a rider like Philpott who wants to walk away is going to start seeing those opportunities open up. You're going to start seeing little cracks, you know, in the like a door just slightly open that you could just bust through eventually and just take away, steal the house, essentially, is what could happen here. Now, Jean-Roch now heads to front, 4.2. They start to rotate a little bit. We'll see if they're going to get organized or not.
Yeah, we're seeing orange numbers here from Cahill going up. They don't want Jamie here to go away. They know he just got a whole lot of points, and the next points will be available at 16.7 kilometers. So a little bit more of a rest between the second lot of points on Clyde Kicker and the next breakaway Bray. So they get about 5 kilometers, whereas the one before, the Clyde Kicker, that came so fast. You know, by the time they'd recovered from that sprint, it was basically 2 kilometers to go. So we'll see the live leaderboard here looking like, oh, this is adding up all the points so far. Thomas Perrin, your man, Nathan, he is out in front by 2 on 8 points. Paul Carr in second with 6. Gary Hamilton in third with 5 points, tied with Jamie Philpott. The tiebreakers will happen at the finish line. So best position over the finish line will break the ties. Ryan Dummer and Jamie Cahill on 2 points, and then Seri Pritchard and Arnold on the 1 point. But wow, Thomas Perrin, first lap was a winner for him.
I think this course really favors Perrin. He's got a good, sharp, very short kick. The guy's got a massive FTP, you know, this guy, well, he's kind of a great all-arounder too. So great course for him. I think be on the watch out for Perrin to just continue to extend that lead out here. Now Perrin actually to the front, interesting enough. Is he actually on the attack? I mean, this is like, this guy just can do it all. Like, what is going on with Perrin here? I mean, now he does get covered pretty quickly, but I mean, after winning each one of those sprints, well, not winning each one of those sprints, but being in the lead, doesn't he? Would you think he wants to defend his position? Now, is the best defense and offense today, Anna?
I think he just heard you talking about him and was like, oh, you know what? I'm going to go to the front. Thanks, Nathan. I'm just going to show how good I am, how much I've recovered. But yeah, he's on fire, I've got to say. Look at this, level 94, 33,000 kilometers on Zwift. The 15-second power. Now, what is interesting is I know before today's racing, Nathan, you're saying it was kind of a sprinter's course, but you'd have to say with Thomas Perrin's power numbers there, he's pretty good over all durations. So it is that real all-rounder rider, although he is kind of dangling a little bit off the back here. He needs to be careful that he doesn't completely lose touch. He's kind of playing with fire here. He needs to make sure he gets back there because someone's attacking off the front. Maybe they've seen him at the back. And that's what you should do. You should put in the power on the front. I wouldn't be surprised if that was Ed Laverick, as he maybe saw Perrin just a little bit in danger territory. That was interesting. Why would he be doing that, Nathan? Is he just having the draft a little bit too coasty at the back?
I think he was expecting to just like sit in after his attack. And like you said, they rolled through and just upped the speed on the front. I think that's exactly what happened. And he just was caught out for a second there. James Barnes now making his way to the front. It looks like, is Barney going to start getting involved in some of these points? Because Barnes has no points at this point. James Barnes needs to start collecting points, or he's here for Perrin. Those are your two options. So here goes Barney now, 6.1 on the front. Is he going to kind of just sneak away a little bit? I mean, this isn't a major attack, actually. This is just a steady off the front roll away. Ed Laverick says, nope. Restarts on this one. Goodall's there as well. A lot of restart riders now starting to make their way. Goodall has not grabbed a single point, though, interesting enough. So perhaps now as we get later into the race, David Goodall might start trying to collect. Is this going to be the Barney Goodall lap, perhaps, to try and start grabbing points as things get more attritional?
Yeah, well, these are the breakaway buddies, Goodall and Barnes, although Goodall has just sort of swept over the top of Barnes and is now making a break himself at almost 7 watts per kg. Yeah, you don't have to remind me, Nathan, that Barnes doesn't have any points on the table yet, so I'm not quite sure what he's doing. I wish he'd let me know if he was being a complete domestique, because I wouldn't have picked him. But anyway, we've got Goodall going off the front here, and he's got about a second with Pritchard sort of chasing off the back. They're going to head over this roundabout, a little bit of descent after that. So I would imagine this pack will get back on terms, but Goodall is pushing some pretty hard watts here at the front, leading into a little bit of downhill before they're going to be thinking about the next points opportunity, which is around that 16-kilometer mark.
We're down to 18 riders. It does look like now Beatty, Andy McRae, Dan Halliday, Dean Cunningham, Josh Power, Angus Butler, Milan Molnar, Sean Brennan, and Steve Jukes have all dropped off the back at this point. So obviously it's been a really, really difficult day if those riders, after just one lap, have been shelled from this main group. Now, is there actually a little bit of separation behind as well for some others? No, they're all back on terms as far as those all go. So that is going to be where we are at with 18 riders. Who's all here? Now I am seeing for restart currently in this lead group, Ed Laverick is there. Ewan Mackey, David Goodall. Those are the 3 riders still involved for the restart team. Level, though, showing up with 3. Paul Carr currently in second, Jamie Cahill and Gary Hamilton. So, those are riders who can all really challenge this next team, and Level could put themselves on another level like today. This could be a situation if they're able to take down the reality of next presented by Insured, the reality of James Barnes being here with Thomas Perrin. That would be massive for Level, and they've got Paul Carr currently in the second place for the points. If they start working for him, this could be a massive breakthrough for Level Esports.
Yeah, that would be amazing. But the question is, Nathan, how do you beat Thomas Perrin? We've seen on lap 1, he's just managed to get these points when it matters. He's sat in the pack. We've seen him drafting off the back. He seems pretty relaxed. And when it matters, he gets right near the front, and his momentum and his timing is almost perfect. Look, we've got 16.7K is the next breakaway Bray reverse. Now, what we saw on lap 1 is a lot of attacks happening on this climb to try and get away before the downhill. None of them worked, though. So I wonder if anyone will try this again. They're going to have about 5 seconds, I think, at the top to even be able to stay away as they hit the next preems. But I don't know. It's a bit of a risk, I think, to waste that much energy, knowing that the last race had such a high sprint level heading into breakaway break. But we are seeing attacks here. Valance again, Philpott, Carr, Miller, all orange numbers, but everyone is going for it. There's absolutely no daylight now between the lead rider. They're all staying together.
Paul Carr, I think the question for level is, are they going to be able to steal points away also from Perrin, or get in the way, or be a good lead out and then steal some points as well on the board, putting bodies in between? I think they have to really figure out. I mean, they have to just beat Perrin straight up with Paul Carr. He's their best sprinter. I'm looking through at his numbers actually, and Carr, 1,235 watts. We're looking at 15.8 watts per kilogram that he can throw down actually for that 15 seconds. So, I think for Carr, he is their hope. Unless perhaps he, gets tired out throughout, and perhaps Hamilton is their better overall for the duration. But I think if they really put all of their chips in for Carr, the only other option I think is that Hamilton has a better threshold and can maybe last a little bit longer throughout the entirety of this race. But here we go, breakaway brace, second time. We saw Arnold the first time through going early on this downhill, and that's not happening this time around. It looks like we're going to be setting up for a pure sprint from Hamilton. Hamilton looking to grab these points away. Carr is sitting perfectly in fourth wheel, watching Perrin. They're neck and neck, actually. Perrin and Carr right next to each other as Hamilton's being chased down. Carr trying to grab onto that wheel. Perrin's right onto the wheel there as well, though it looks like Perrin is sitting in perfectly. Will he be able to come over the top? Now it's going to be about the pure power as they roll right on through. Thomas Perrin continuing on, and Perrin's got the extra kick. Carr backed off for a second. No, he was looking for the wheel, perhaps. Now Level stealing as many points as they can. Oh no, they took the points from the teammate, perhaps, as Perrin comes rolling through.
Oh my gosh, Perrin, what can he not do? That was phenomenal. He held that sprint for so long. He got on terms with the riders and then just seemed to edge away. As we look at this replay, you'll see what I'm talking about. He's sitting on the wheels and then just holds it, kicks a little, holds, like you said, Carr, he kind of dialed it back a little bit, was so misfortunate. And then we see Cahill coming through so fast with some massive watts. Looks like he took second place on those preem points. It'd be great to see how this impacts the overall, but man, Perrin, I just don't see anyone beating him today. He is on form.
Now, we do have a little bit of a split taking place actually after those attacks here. We'll get into the points in just a moment, but or through that sprint section, it does look like everybody who was there except for Ewan Mackey. Mackey now off the back, actually interesting, because he is got a massive sprint on him, but there's just the reality that it's been such a difficult race. Now the counterattack, though, taking place. This is massive. It looks like Perrin jumping on board here. Oh, next presented Ryan Short. They're throwing down. Not only are they taking the points, they're saying, let's continue on with this one. Everybody's suffering as Barney now makes the move. Perrin jumps on now, though, but it gets shut down real quickly. That was almost a danger moment for everybody as Perrin was on the wheel. Philpott was there as well. We could have seen a roll away with Level completely uninvolved, but Hamilton covered it and everybody shut down. Laverick, though, I think is going to make a counter move here in just a moment because he sees everybody's got their heart rates through the roof. And I think Ed Laverick sees a little bit of that crack in the door to maybe bust it down as he's on the front.
Yeah, this is a perfect time. Ed Laverick went here this time on the last lap as well. He knows everybody is suffering, but I think the problem is he is suffering too. So he doesn't quite have that kick he had in the first lap, and people have been able to catch on, and they're back together as a group, strung out group, but back together. As we look at this live leaderboard, Sari Pritchard with 1 point, Ryan Jummer with 2, Arnold with 4, Jamie Philpott on 5, Jamie Cahill on 6, tied with Gary Hamilton. Paul Carr, great result there. He's now on 8, but Thomas Perrin, 13. He is 5 points clear of second place. What a ride we are seeing from Thomas Perrin.
Yeah, massive here as they all calm right on down. I have a feeling that perhaps, there's got to be, look at this. you have Paul Carr, Gary Hamilton, and Jamie Cahill all sitting there at second, third, and fourth. So level here, they're going to stack the bottom half of the podium. But if they want to win out here today, they've got to really think about how they're going to put Perrin and Next on the back foot. They're all going and waiting for those sprints. So perhaps the question is, we can't beat Perrin, so let's just continue to stack as many points as we can and get some riders on the podium. Maybe they've settled for that, or are they going to start sacrificing together? Are they communicating is the other question. Are they in a Discord? What is the plan here, I would wonder, from them? Or is there some disorganization? We've got a lap and a half to go. We're over halfway done with this race. They don't got a lot of time to work with here before the finish.
Yeah, exactly. As we see the gradient going up a bit here to that 3%. And then they're not actually that far away, less than a kilometre now to that Clyde Kicker. That's what I was talking about after the first lap. That gap between Breakaway Bray Reverse and Clyde Kicker is so small and it is so hard. As we see James Barnes edging off the front again. Now, this would be a great reverse lead out from him if he can manage it for his teammates, because it forces the others to chase, as we're seeing from Dummer and Philpott. And then it means that his teammates can sit in the pack and just relax while everyone else tries to chase. But Dummer goes off the front from Wales. What a great flag there. I always love that national flag. And Philpott on his wheel, two teammates. Now this is dangerous. These guys can work together. Absolutely. Almost team time trial to this next Clyde Kicker. But look who's there in third. Thomas Perrin. Always
Perfect lead
there.
out.
He
Perfect
is just
lead out.
unstoppable. Perfect.
I love what I just saw here from Ryan Dubner. Ryan Dubner just led out Philpott. Thomas Perrin here trying to cover that because he saw exactly what Wahoo was doing. That was an all-in move, actually. Like, completely sacrificed himself because Dubner just went absolutely backwards. He is out of the race right now, and that was to set up Philpott. Philpott has to continue on through here and hold off Perrin. Now 10 watts per kilogram, 12 watts per kilogram, though. And Perrin might be able to come over the top. I don't think he's going to quite be able to catch him, but Perrin, with that chase, is still going to grab second place points over the top here. Jamie Philpott, Clyde Kicker, though, that's his part of the course. He loves this section of course, just says, just try and catch me if you can, and continues on. This is a lot of points at the finish line. Remember, there's 10 points at the finish line, still 5 points in breakaway reverse. Great move here from Wahoo. Wahoo sends Philpott up the road with still about 800 meters to go. Ryan Dubner, complete sacrifice from him to get him these extra 5 points. That is massive. That's 10 points in the bucket for Philpott here at this point. That's going to really bump him up the leaderboard. And he obviously had thought about, look, I might not be able to catch breakaway Bray points, but I don't need those points necessarily. If I can take points on Clyde Kicker every time and get a great finish all the way to the finish line or walk away right here, this might be the plan from Wahoo. Massive from them.
Yeah, that was really amazing. And Philpott, he has dialed in the Clyde Kicker. He knows what to do. And I don't know if you noticed, Nathan, he goes over the top at around 11 watts per kg and then holds it at 4. He does not super tuck. He pushes all over that downhill. He's got a slight lead we can see now, but this is something these riders need to watch out for in the next lap when they'll be coming through to the finish line. So he is dialing it in lap on lap. And if they let him get that 3, 4, 5 seconds, it appears to me that he can hold it. He can hold these watts. And now he's got 5 seconds coming through here. This is danger time. And look who's chasing. James Barnes. This tells me he is the domestique for the team today. He is on these riders to make sure they don't get away. He has got to ride really hard, though, because Philpott right up at around 400 watts. 5 seconds still, hovering around 5 to 6 seconds. Would he be able to hold this for the last lap, or at least until the next lot of points?
Yeah, and if he can, I mean, grabbing the points over the reverse breakaway Bray, even that is a solid. Then you can sit up even and relax as much as you possibly can to try and have another Clyde Kicker and then the finish. I mean, he is setting himself up perfectly right now, forcing the rest of the pack to make the work. The pack is reduced also at this point. You have to think about that, right? Everyone's watching each other. They're watching the race go up the road. This could be the championship. He could be our UK eSport champion this year because of the way that he is riding this right now, putting all of his chips into the basket of the final lap. It will score enough for him if he takes them all. I think this could be a win. Look at him, 10 points. Perrin, let's say Perrin takes 4. Well, Perrin could defend his position. If Perrin takes second across all of them, I don't know if there's enough points out there necessarily. It's a 2-point differentiation between second and first at that 10 and 8, right? And then you've got 4 and 4 still available. So that's not going to be quite the 7 points, is it? It's going to be just on the end. But Perrin has to take second across all of them to defend his position.
Yeah, absolutely. And Philpott here, he's at 9 seconds. This is really dangerous. And he is not slowing down at all. And these riders now have sensed the danger. We've got James Barnes heading to the front. But look, why are they dropping their power? James Barnes needs to keep that going. He can't rely on Carr to come through. And so now they've dropped it so much. These riders are going to get a little bit stuck behind them and the whole pack will slow down. Now, this is not good for those riders who need the points, but this is great for Philpott as he heads into the sort of rolling terrain. Like I said, we've got a bit of a gap now between the Clyde kicker and the next breakaway Bray reverse. That's about 5K of recovery they have. So this is a great chance for Philpott. And I can't believe they let him get away again. He did this on lap 1. And then he's just gone and done it again, lap 2, and the gap is growing. 10 seconds now. Now we see Thomas Perrin sort of come to the front of the pack. He might be starting to get a little bit worried the closer we get to the next points. As we see Jamie Philpott here, level 79er, he is up out of the saddle. Now, how long could he hold that? Because that takes a lot of muscular endurance to stay out of the saddle this long. And he's on a 0% gradient. You know, he's not going uphill. So that was his strategy, is just crank the power at the low cadence.
He's all in. You can see it. You saw it there on screen just a moment ago. Absolutely massive here from Philpott. He is completely all in. James Barnes sees the threat here. Thomas Perrin now next are actually starting to rotate. Their key rider at this point is absolutely rotating through and working because he can see that perhaps if he does not, this is such a risk though. I mean, think about what's happening here, Anna. He's on the front doing the work. If he doesn't take the second place and Philpott still rides away, I mean, he's just saying, look, work with me to bring back Philpott, because other riders are now thinking as well. Ed Laverick here trying to get involved. This is, wow. I mean, that's a big risk from Perrin. What can Ed Laverick do still here? Can he still, as well as he's working here, what's his motivation at this point? Can he still get on the podium even?
Yeah, it's I actually thought that was quite smart from Thomas Perrin. I don't believe he was going to the front to do all the work himself. He went to the front to force someone else to come through, and that's what we saw with Ed Laverick. So I call it like the motivator move. It's sort of get on the front, push some high watts just for a bit to get people motivated, and then relax back in. But now he's letting these wheels go. So Ed Laverick and Pritchard, I think he's just realized that, and now Perrin is pushing into these orange numbers to get back on terms. He's got timing really good in some ways, and then some ways he just sort of eases off that draft a bit too much and gets spat out the back. So he does need to be really careful here that now Pritchard and Ed Laverick don't make a 1-2 breakaway to go up and get up to Philpott, who is now only 6 seconds up the road. He is in sight, but they're going to be going into this downhill, the sort of hill before the points, and that's where we've seen so many people put in a pre-attack. And I think if Philpott can stay away around that 6 to 8 second mark over there, he's got a really good chance of staying away.
Who is Kerry Pritchard riding for right now? Himself? He's riding for himself. He's got 4 points on the board. Okay, that's what's going on. Because he just went to the front and just started smashing 5-6 watts per kilogram. That's brought it back within 5. That might be the death knell for this break. I mean, I thought Philpott was gone, but no, onto the downhill. Now the roll through's coming on through. I mean, James Barnes is now starting to do a whole lot of slingshotting right up on into that 60 kilometers per hour is what we're going to be seeing here. I mean, 52, excuse me, not quite into a super tuck. Philpott, though, what is he is currently throwing down? It looks like a pretty solid 85, 348 watts. We're doing 51 kilometers per hour, I think, from Philpott here at this point. 5 seconds, and they've got this punch before the breakaway Bray reverse. I don't know. This is going to be a tough one. I don't think he's going to stay away.
There's a part in my head, though, that's saying this has been a huge amount of work for Philpott. He has been riding pretty much threshold since the Clyde kicker, which he also won, don't forget, and was sprinting really hard. So there's only so much energy people have, and Thomas Perrin has taken it on himself to chase this down. He's now only 4 seconds back from Jamie Philpott at much higher watts and at much higher speed than we're seeing from Philpott on the front. And this is now dangerous for those riders behind, because Perrin has broken away. He's got 1 second lead on Jamie Cahill, who is just coming into picture now. But look at Thomas Perrin there in the picture on picture. He looks so cool and calm up out of the saddle as the others come through, and he'll get on that draft. But that was enough. That speed he put in, like I called, it was like a motivator move again. Get everyone to slingshot past you, jump on their draft, have a little bit of a relax, and you'll chase back the person in front. So yeah, perfect dynamics there. He really knows this game well. I'm liking what I'm seeing.
Yeah, it was really well done. Chase now done. Philpott brought back in. Philpott perhaps going to be looking forward to the Clyde kicker. Ed Laverick now going for some big points, 5 points up the road, or even the race win. The counter. Will he be caught on the downhill? Liking this from Laverick, but Laverick's really going to have to put in a massive amount of effort right now to hold off a hard charging pack. Everybody thinking about the sprint that's coming. Maybe perhaps they're going to have to settle for 4 points, but they might be happy about that. But Barnesy, James Barnes is the domestique today, 100%, rolls through 57 kilometers per hour. You can see exactly what Next presented by Short is up to with James Barnes being in this race. Full support of Thomas Perrin as Laverick tried to continue to get away.
Yeah, again, I wish I'd known he was a domestique today, but there we go. It's great. It's great seeing him putting in the team play. Now, we don't have long until the breakaway reverse. Here it is up on screen at the 27.9 kilometer mark. They just kicked this off. Will Ed Laverick be able to stay away with Pritchard chasing really hard? 5 seconds. This Z-Sun rider, he's alone team-wise, and he is doing so well. I am so impressed with his effort. But Nathan, you call it over the line.
Carr now. This might be all for Carr because Perrin might not be in the right spot. Here comes Perrin. Perrin, he's unstoppable today, coming on through in that second place. But no, nice one from Hamilton to grab some points. Hamilton's going to come over the top there with the first place. Now, Perrin, though, does defend his second place over the line there, and that's going to defend his overall at this point. Nicely done. But Hamilton's going to bump himself up the leaderboard. Level is having a massive day out here today as we look at the replay. Laverick now caught at the last moment. Kerry Pritchard trying to hold on. Laverick there, as you can see, just swarmed right before the line. Does he hang on for 80 points? I don't think so. Hamilton now, Perrin, Carr, Laverick, maybe no, Mundo and Cahill, I think, is going to be the order. We'll have to take a look at the points in just a moment, but Perrin continues to defend, but a little bit of a boost there, I think, for Cahill, as well as Hamilton.
Yeah, that was interesting. Yeah, Perrin didn't have quite the dominance he's had before, but remember how hard he's been working. He's so far ahead of the points for a reason. He has won or been in the top 3 of so many of these prime points thus far. Now, we don't have long actually till we hit the Clyde kicker, 31.6 kilometers. So we're looking at a couple of K. And then that is the last opportunity for points, but it is so close to the finish line. At the top of the Clyde kicker, it's only 2 kilometers. So what do you do here? If I was Perrin, I would sit in a little and just maybe go for sort of a top 5, but not go for the win over that Clyde kicker. Be aware of anyone who may be trying to have an early break, but save a little bit of energy for that sprint at the end, because I don't think he has the highest raw watts for that overall sprint at the end. As we're seeing Ed Laverick go again, exactly the same spot he's done in the last 2 laps. He must just feel or sense in the pack a slowdown and decides to go. But I think, unfortunately, there's so many domestiques working for other people in this group that there's just too many people motivated to chase. Although he's managed to carve out about 3 seconds already. And there's not, Philpott's gone to the front. Philpott senses the concern here with him getting that 4 seconds now. This could be a little bit dangerous. We're actually not too far away from the overall finish of this race with points in between.
Interesting to see that Jay Glass now is making his way to the front. Glass leading things out for Z-Sun, maybe trying to set up Garrett Pritchard for a solid result still. So that's got to be frustrating for Laverick now, seeing even Z-Sun chasing him down, because the leaders currently in this race, Philpott, Perrin, we're looking at level, not putting it up to them, instead rotating through. So Z-Sun still trying to be involved and shutting down the efforts there from Ed Laverick, as Laverick still has about 4 or 5 seconds. Now, will Jamie Philpott repeat? It's going to be the big question. Philpott currently on 10 points. The podium's still up for grabs. Perrin now has solidified that I don't think anybody can even catch him, actually. Well, they could. 15 points to Gary Hamilton could do it, right? 15, even Paul Carr could still do it as long as Perrin is not involved in the next 2. I definitely think that that's not... Now, the great thing about this point setup, with similar efforts that we've seen from him so far, Does he have it in the tank? Is going to be the big question. Great to see. Now out to 4 seconds. Will we see the chase now in the roll through from the pack here as Valence is only doing 3.9 at the front?
I do want to note too that third place tied between Carr and Philpott. So that is definitely going to be one to watch. And Philpott's the one we've seen who has managed to just time the Clyde kicker perfectly each lap and lead that into a breakaway at the top. And this is the finish line lap. So that will really matter. So keep an eye on Carr and Philpott. They are tied in third, and whoever has the best points at the finish will break that tie. So really interesting battle there. As we see Ed Laverick, his lead is coming down. Unfortunately for him, we've got Glass, we haven't talked about at all, from Scotland, up at the 6 watts a kg, really motivated to chase this down. Now only 3 seconds away from Ed Laverick with none other than Thomas Purin, our massive leader. We'd have to say winner on the day, bar any unfortunate circumstances. He will take this out, but they're not very far away from taking the right, which will take them up the Clyde kicker, as we see Philpott, the man who knows this climb so well, coming into the second wheel here.
I don't know if they're going to let him do it again, though. They're right on it. Philpott continuing on, making a long, stretched out Clyde kicker. Comes up over the top there of Ed Laverick, but it's a big question mark whether or not this is going to work out. Everybody on the chase, do they still have the watts, though, to throw down? Paul Carr's now throwing. Big one from Carr here. Carr up into the 8 watts per kilogram quickly. Here comes Mundo. Mundo with 8 watts per kilogram. Perrin with one last kick, though. Perrin essentially getting the lead out from Philpott. Oh, Jamie fading at this point as Philpott's not going to take any points through his favorite Clyde kicker, it looks like to me. Maybe just 1 point for Philpott. That's massive for Perrin. I think he just solidified this. Still 10 points at the line. There's a break now. Reduced field. I don't think they're coming back here, Anna. I think that this is gone.
This is gone. 1,500 meters to go. We see Pritchard going, Perrin off the front, slowing down a little bit, but this looks like a group of 6 who will make it, though. Have got to push over this climb, as we're seeing from Thomas Perrin, and they've got to take the speed into this descent, and they will stay away. As we see the replay here, oh, Philpott, look at him just drifting backwards there. My heart breaks for him. Thomas Perrin, though, with Carl Pritchard on his wheel, all these people knew the danger of this last time up the Clyde kicker, that they could use that momentum to break away, as we've got live images on the road. Carr has managed to catch back up. Now we know Carr and Philpott, they have got the battle on battle to get this third place podium position. They were tied heading into the Clyde kicker, as we see the attack here coming off from Pritchard up at some huge watts. They'll go down to this descent. They'll take a little sort of dogleg corner, and there is an opportunity to attack again. It's about a 1 minute effort if they go up the little climb. It's very tiny, but it's a great place to launch an attack. Otherwise, it's going to be up to an all-out sprint on a slight downhill into a flat, into a slight uphill for this finish. Here's the little kick. Nathan, how's this going to play out?
Kerry Pritchard, he's got a good TT effort, and that's why he's doing this. He doesn't necessarily have the sprint up against him. Now he can maybe hold off if he's got a little bit of a kick at the end, but Hamilton's being the lead out man for Carr as Carr sits right on the back. I think that's what's going on here. Hamilton's trying to set things up perfectly for Carr, but Perrin is perfectly set for the final turn. Is Perrin going to just take all the points out here today? Big 13 watt per kilogram sprint, but I'm not sure that's going to happen because Hamilton has set himself up. Here comes Perrin. Massive kick for Perrin. Will it be right at the line? I think Hamilton's going to take the first across the line. Points for the 10, but Perrin with the 9. Pritchard with the solid TT effort all the way through from the Kaminsky, I would say, downhill, as I think he's kind of put his stamp on that one as Kerry Pritchard tries to take one from the Kaminsky playbook and almost pulls it off. Now looking back, as we're going to watch some of the riders finish up out here today, but looks like to us today here, the UK Esports champion for 2025 provisionally is going to be Thomas Perrin as we see that replay.
Yeah, look at Thomas Perrin open up his sprint there. You kind of thought, will he make it? I think Hamilton was just too far ahead at this point, but he does come through 2 riders right in this last 75 meters to look like he takes second place on the line. So close to Hamilton, I've got to say, but great job, Hamilton, on the sprint at the end. And this was a chase pack. David Goodall winning the chase pack sprint behind. But yeah, Hamilton, wow, what an overall across the line. But yeah, Thomas Perrin, you've got to say chapeau for a very, very well executed race today.
Yeah, massive job here for Thomas Perrin. We'll get the results coming as soon as we possibly can as we get into the ladies. And on cue, the moment we get in with them, Maria Holdcroft jumping into it. Let's go ahead and do a quick little review of how this race is going to play out here today. Again, same course we just watched with the men, jumping in with the ladies. And we'll get some review of the men's points as soon as we possibly can. But we don't want to miss any of the action as the ladies have been out on course for about 3 kilometers. It's been very quiet. No attacks so far, really. Holly Bergen's out here with Maria Holdcroft, though, covering very quickly to make sure that the one of the top riders in the world, Maria Holdcroft, doesn't just walk away with this one from Cryo RDT.
And I will take a special mention to who we're watching on screen at the moment, which is Kirsty Herber-Smith. She has just joined my team, Team Riot. So she's in the colors there. This is actually her first race for our team. So I'm interested to see how she goes as she's chasing down Holly Bergen, who's managed to get on Maria Holdcroft's wheel, which is fantastic, actually. Holly, great rider for next. And she'll be really, really trying to hold on to that wheel pretty hard. It will be a very tough ask to beat Maria Holdcroft today. Like you said, Nathan, she was the silent assassin in the Zwift games, I've got to say. And the tenacity she showed on those final climbs when the hurt was on to stay with that group almost right till the very end was so impressive. And today, I don't know what she'll do. Maybe she'll stay away for the whole 3 laps with this attack she's made off the front. As we see the men's results come in across all points and the finish line. So at the finish line, we will talk about that first because that's what we just saw was Gary Hamilton, Thomas Perrin in second, Siri Pritchard in third, Daniel Mundell in fourth, then Paul Carr, Jamie Philpott. That will be interesting to see the overall with those two so close. David Goodall, Jack Morris, Ed Laverick, impressive to stay on after his attacks, and John Glass rounding out that top 10 at the finish.
Yeah, these are all of the points as they finished across the line. Again, remember, these will be provisional as we wait for the final. And it does look like for the final points, it is going to be at the top with 34 points. Thomas Perrin taking down the champ. What a late race result here for Gary Hamilton, though, coming through with the big points at the finish line, bumps him up that 10 points. He also had some solid points, I think, over the top of that final Clyde kicker, was it perhaps? Or at least, no, it was breakaway Bray, excuse me, on number 5 there, as you can see. Solid points there. Those 2 points really bumped him up. Nice job for that second place. Kerry Pritchard, though, what a result from him, bumping Paul Carr out. And that TT effort all the way to the line, grabbing him those 6 points. Massive for Kerry Pritchard. Great to see from him. I know he's coming to the Zwift racing scene, being a pro TT specialist way back in the day. And Zwift has brought his racing career back online in some way. So that's great to see. And so that is your final results, as you can see here. Jamie Philpott just not quite able to pull off that final attacks that we saw. But great men's race, definitely, Anna.
Yeah, I actually am surprised to see Jamie Philpott just drop into 5th there on 12 points. I thought he was really up there for a podium spot, but unfortunately couldn't quite hold on at his favourite Clyde kicker. As we're back to the women here, Maria Holdcroft now with a 4-second gap on the field. That is dangerous. She could honestly stay away for the whole race with how I've seen her race before. And a real shout out to Holly Bergen in second, pushing so hard and still within striking distance. And one of my picks, Charlotte Colclough, is doing very well in 3rd place, chasing this down. And that was another one of my picks, wasn't it? Natalie Stevenson sitting there in 4th. So these women are all sort of, I'm just telling you, Nathan, that I may have very much lost out on the men's race, but I think my picks for the women's race are all doing very well to try and get on terms with Maria Holdcroft. But yeah, they can't let her get up the road like this. That is way too dangerous.
Yeah, Natalie Stevenson, as you can see there. Well, see, here's the thing. It's all cryo RDT. And so they're just going to steal some points there, right? And then let Maria go. They're not going to chase their teammate down. There's a reality that they're confident that they can grab the points through. This may be from what we've seen so far, this could be a women's cryo RDT sweep. That's where it currently stands. Charlotte Colcroft, Natalie Stevenson grabbing massive points there with the 5, 4, and 3 so far. Holcroft, I think this was the prediction. And why wait around? There's no reason to risk it, right? Just continue on. And third overall at Zwift Games, she took a podium at almost every one of the championship races. She was on the podium. I think it was in second place for the sprint championship. In the climb championship, I believe she took third. And then was fourth on the Epic Championship and third overall in the overall results. So this is somebody who can do this 4.6 plus all day long. And I have a feeling that she is completely motivated to do that because this is her wheelhouse, actually. She would prefer a course like this where I just continue on with the effort I can do. And I think everybody knows it. And they're like, look, that's a level that we cannot match. Let it go. Because if we try and challenge that, we could give up our chances at anything lesser than first.
Oh, I don't know. You kind of look at the beginning, you see she's riding, a solid 5.3 watts a kg here. We saw Holly Bergen try and stay on that for a little while. But I think honestly, if you've got an FTP of around 4.3 watts a kg, you could stay on her wheel. You could draft at around that pace behind her and stay with her. Yes, it would be very, very hard, but I think you've actually got a better chance then of a podium. Is just realize the first lap is going to be horrific and really, really hard. But you'll get second. I'm all about game theory. You want to take away as much chance as possible. And I think that would be the way to take away as much chance. Because look, you've got a group here of about 10 riders. Now you're risking a 1 in 10. And I think, if you could have got on a wheel, but maybe it was just too hard of ask. I mean, she's riding some extreme watts here. She is an elite rider. So, she was right up there, podium positions at the Zwift Games recently. So, yeah, I'm not surprised that she's managed to break away this much. She's basically done it today, Pogacar. She's gone, you know what? I'm not going to kind of sit in the bunch today. I want to do my threshold workout and I'm just going to sit at the front and just keep gaining seconds and seconds and seconds as we see her up to, hitting almost 30 seconds ahead of this group now, which is just crazy. And what do these guys do now? I mean, is the motivation a bit less knowing that they're not fighting for first? Or are they just like, okay, she's up the road. Let's just do the best with what we've got. And we're basically fighting here for second as we see two riders coming back up into that chase group. But yeah, Holdcroft, unbelievable. And, you'd ask, maybe people watching, can she hold this for the next 25 kilometers? Yeah, absolutely. She can hold this for the next 25 kilometers. So you can see her stats there, 20-minute power of 271 watts. Huge. Even if the pack caught her, she's got a sprint of 770 watts. Unbelievable. Unbeatable.
Yeah, Holdcroft is gone. This is going to be a walk in the park for her, I think, at this point. And I think she didn't want to risk it. I think from the get-go, there was just a reality of let's just make this a hard workout and make sure I get my threshold effort in for the day. Looking forward to the weekend most likely as well. I do know now. One other thing is perhaps she's trying to like what's going to do less damage to the legs as well, because she may be thinking also about Sunday Race Club on Sunday, because I know that she's racing the finals. I would be really surprised if she wasn't. So she's got a big weekend coming up. Maybe she doesn't want to have to contend big sprints over and over again and perhaps just get a solid threshold effort type in, or get away and get an extended effort, get into more of a zone 3 to zone 4 where it doesn't, end up really, really, really explosive, and it cannot really be too much drain on the legs, perhaps for a big race on the weekend as well. But it looks like she's going to walk away with the UK Esports Championship if they do not respond to this. Maybe a little time will come over to the top of the Clyde kicker, perhaps. But I have a feeling that regardless of how hard they go over the top of that, it's not going to bring back the kind of time that they need because Maria is gone. So now the question is about second place. And will we see a continuance from Natalie Stevenson and Charlotte Kolkloff grabbing these points here to try and make this a cryo RDT sweep? I may have lost Anna for a moment, perhaps.
Sorry, there we go. Maria Holdcroft coming through to take this Clyde kicker on the first lap. And it'll be the battle behind that I'm more interested in, to be honest now. I think Maria's taken this race out, but we're looking at new rider Kirsty Herbert-Smith from Team Riot going up in the lead. I don't know if she's quite nailed the draft here. She's sort of leading a lot of this ride as we see Charlotte Kolkloff coming through with some big watts coming into the second kick up the climb with a good gap, but with Natalie Stevenson chasing her down. But here we go, Kirsta Herbie-Smith and Heather Shanks What a great racer. You can see the fire coming out of her fire socks. She pushed hard, but it looks like Charlotte will come through with Cuthbertson with a late attack to the line, coming with that third place over. And it looks like fourth, Heather Shanks, and fifth, new rider, Kirsty Herbert-Smith.
Nicely done. Wow, big result actually there as we got over the top here for that second, third, and fourth and fifth. It's going to be Coldcloth, as you said. Massive kick from her, able to hold off, it looks like, Shanks with that 8.7 plus watts per kilogram. Shanks just barely maybe holding on to the line, unable to do so. I think, oh, well, Cuthbertson, yep, I think able to just grab those points as we wait for them to come through. 2 seconds now, it looks like, to a chasing pack with Jones and Bergen trying to get back on terms. This is going to be the first split point, it looks like, for this main group. And this might just be packs spread all over the course. I have a feeling with how difficult this course may be.
Yeah, exactly. As we're watching Helen Taylor Carter. And if anyone in live chat can tell me what that flag is, not quite sure on that. I know the Scottish, the Welsh, Great Britain, but not sure on that one. Someone can let me know. I'm wondering if it's Guernsey Island or something like that. But anyway, she is kind of in that no woman's land at the moment. A tough place to be in as she sees 3 second gap, and the riders ahead have just got that pack speed going, and it might be a really tough day for her to get back on. As we see this group, a lot of orange ticks there, which means that they've raced in the Premier Division on Zwift. So a lot of really good Zwifters have made this front pack, which is great to see. Kirsty Herbert-Smith again leading this out, but not at a huge pace that would rival Maria Holdcroft on the front, who's still riding her, what would you call that, zone 4 at 5.1 watts a kg, now up to a 40-second lead. But yeah, that was quite interesting on that first sprint that we saw quite a few riders catch up in the last sort of 20 meters or so. I'll be interested to see the points and how that has panned out for this chasing pack, who is really battling for places 2 onwards.
Yeah, it looks like Helen Taylor Carter now. 6 seconds, 3.2 watts per kilogram, trying to chase this back on. She might be able to do so. Jones was able to get back on turns. Herbert-Smith, good shout out actually to see her involved here. And with the recent pickup, I think it's got to be a little bit encouraging, I would think, here, Anna. I mean, it was somebody I had called out in the pre-show to say, hey, this might be somebody to watch out for that's been newer to the world of Zwift racing. I saw some good power from her. Solid 4.7 watts per kilogram, actually. She's got some points on the board, 2 points. They're still in contention, as you can see, for a podium, most likely. So if she's got a solid effort throughout the entirety, can handle the attrition, can handle the distance of this race, and have some good kicks later on, watch out for Herbert-Smith.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm excited to see Herbert-Smith on our race team now, just with the way she's racing now. This is great. Now, do just want to give an update that the white flag is the St. George's Cross, and it's actually the flag of England. Now, I should probably know this as a Commonwealth country, being in New Zealand, but the Union Jack is all of these countries together, or you can just pick to use the English flag if you're from England. So that's what we're seeing with the English flag, Scotland flag, Welsh flag. So yeah, there we go. Did not know that. It's not Guernsey Island. So that was a bit of a random pick from me. But yes, I've been schooled now in my flags.
Yeah, it's a good, I appreciate the chat helping us out there for sure. Natalie Stevenson now 8 watts per kilogram. Nice little kick. This is a big push here. Karsten Ivany, good to see Karsten coming in. The Jack is all the flags mashed together. Good to see Karsten, as always, very well-known community member. That's for sure. Stevenson, this is good from her. I have a feeling this might pay off actually for Priority T. Is she being chased down by, that's not a teammate. That's going to be Keith Burton. And Keith Burton here now from Restart says, let's get this going. Is she got any teammates to work with her? No, everyone's fairly isolated. The only team that's got teammates at this point is going to be Todd and Shanks. Is that right? No, Shanks actually riding for next. So it's actually a Cryo RDT 2-up. Cryo RDT can just throw riders off the front over and over again. Everybody else has to chase.
I know. This is great from Natalie Stevenson. level 93er. She knows her Zwifting and she's got a great 20-minute power. So she will be able to hold this away. And we're not seeing a concerted chase from behind. We've got Jones, but only sitting at 3 watts a kg. Charlotte Coh, she knows though. She knows this is danger time and she has lifted her pace massively. She's not just going to pull the pack either. She is going to try and come over solo to get on terms with Natalie Stevenson as they're going to be approaching relatively soon the next part of points. That will be at the 16.7 kilometer mark. So they've got about 3 kilometers until they hit that. And this has managed to pull everybody up with Cuthbertson, Scottish woman, coming through onto the front, a little bit of momentum there. But yeah, didn't manage to get away. And that was a huge effort from Stevenson. I wonder if she'll pay for that later.
Yeah, it's a good question. I have a feeling that we're going to see the counterattack perhaps coming in from Coh. I mean, if she's got it in the legs, although Coh, I think, has a pretty good kick and perhaps is looking forward to these sprints, and it's just kind of a, trying to soften up the legs of the other riders by sending Stevenson off the front. I mean, she's got a solid 9.2 watts per kilogram if she wants to really, throw down. She does have a pretty good 20-minute, though, up in that 4.4. So it'll be interesting to see how they play the cards for Charlotte out here today. Stevenson, I think you're right. They most likely want to try and get her off the front and secure that second place as well. And make the other riders chase, because if they do have to chase, that puts Charlotte in a perfect position to try and, defend that third. So right now it is an overall situation with first and second going to Cryo DT with Maria Holkoff and Charlotte Coh. Natalie Stevenson needs a couple more points there, as you can see, if they want to sweep the podium, as Cuthbertson there for restart. They're sitting in third place.
I'd have to say, Nathan, and we saw this recently in the Zwift games, I'm not sure this women field plays the team game as much as the men's field. So I'm looking at this and I'm thinking, you're wanting to take out the Cycling Esports UK Championship. I think it becomes a solo race. I'm not sure we're going to see team dynamics here. Just my opinion, but I think, you're this is just mano a mano battles here. People don't want to give up that, what will now be, second and third podium positions. And I doubt these ladies will work together like we saw in the men's race. I've got James Barnes and Thomas Perrin in the live chat, and James Barnes was definitely domestiquing for Thomas Perrin. And yes, I'm just not seeing it here. As we're seeing Todd, though, go off the front on the downhill, though, probably not the best time to go, as this pack will be going relatively quickly. Probably be able to catch up before they hit the next points, which are at the 16.7 kilometer mark. So we're looking at about 2 kilometers. They'll go into this downhill like we saw in the men's race, kick up into that little climb before the climb, a little taster for what's to come up through this castle area. And this is where we'll see any fireworks. We've got Maria Holdcroft off the front. She's just doing Maria Holdcroft things. But this will be the battle here as it pans out into the downhill, who might go a little bit early.
Todd, a little bit of a move there from the Synergy Riders. They do like to attack at unpredictable times, that's for sure. Shanks now up over the top, it looks like. No real push, though. Shanks just with the cover and kill. And now, where do you want to be on this little bit of a downhill section? I definitely would want to be sitting mid-pack and roll through with some speed. Nobody wanted to really lead this in, as we're at 49 kilometers per hour. Now up in the 52, 53. Shanks now with 5.7 watts per kilogram. Nice little push through as it goes uphill. First little sharp section before we hit the second time through the breakaway reverse. Cuthbertson now with a little bit of a kick on 7 watts per kilogram. Herbert Smith, the rider that we were talking about being the dark horse, just recently picked up by that Riot team. Good to see her up into that top 3. Is this going to be a little bit of a split, perhaps, with it whittling down each time the riding gets difficult? Stevenson, oh no. What's going on with Natalie Stevenson? That is unexpected. Stevenson now off the back, 4.7. Is this a mistake, perhaps, and the power's actually there? Where's the heart rate? 178. Not expected one bit.
No, that's very strange that she wasn't able to kick up into those orange numbers at all when everyone else did. That doesn't bode well heading into these last laps. But let's see if she can recover in time for the breakaway Bray, which is coming up very shortly on this downhill as we see a rider off the front. That's Todd again, who's managed to get away, carve out 2 seconds on this group. But Katie Herbert-Smith is chasing her down. Natalie Stevenson, you can see, even on her trainer at home, looks to be struggling. There's deep breaths, really tense around us, not looking as relaxed as we're used to with her. So Todd has managed to get a good little gap here. Coming up very quickly, 16.7k till this climb kicks off and they get some opportunity for some more points. Will Todd be able to stay away? Not with Charlotte Coh chasing behind at some orange numbers. Massive effort here coming through from Charlotte.
Nice one from Coldcloth up and over the top. Where's Stevenson? Is Stevenson off the back? Yeah, but she is making a chase. So Coldcloth now on the attack. That's going to cause a little bit of a push from the pack. Cuthbertson now trying to protect her third place overall, but I have a feeling that Coldcloth is going to be able to hang on to this because it's going to be all up to Cuthbertson, and that's going to be in the pocket of Herbert Smith. Great here from Herbert Smith if she can hang on. Herbert Smith now trying to do something, but I don't think it's going to be enough. This Cuthbertson now with a solid kick, still in the orange number. Coldcloth's going to hang on for that second place on through as Maria Holdcroft continues just to rack up points off the front all day long. 5 go to Maria Holdcroft. Maria Holdcroft. Coldcloth for second there. Cuthbertson looks like for third. Herbert Smith, solid ride from her in for that fourth. And was it Stevenson coming through or is that Holly Berg? How did Stevenson suddenly find herself toward the front of this race again? That is massive from Natalie Stevenson off the back and to the front.
Yeah, look at this. Cuthbertson now on the wheel-ish, just let Charlotte Coh get away. But some big watts here. Very impressed, like you said, with Herbert Smith. She's hitting some really good numbers to stave off Holly Bergen, who is chasing very hard. And then we see Natalie Stevenson just kind of drifting off at the back. So I don't know what is going on with her at the moment. She really dropped on that first kick and then made her way back up from a really out of position moment to get back up into this front group. So the watts are there, but maybe, like I said, if she took that kick off the front and tried to get away, I think she burned a little bit too much energy. And this style of attritional race, she just hasn't managed to recover completely. Let's see if she can now, because we actually don't have much time until they hit the Clyde kicker again at the 20.5 kilometer mark. So 2K to go. As we see the live leaderboard, loving this. Maria Holdcroft, yes, off the front. She is the winner on the day. Charlotte Coh, 12 points in second, ahead of Leah Cuthbertson with 8. Kirsty Herbert-Smith, very close to the podium. She's got 4 points. If she stays focused, she could get up there into that top 3. Natalie Stevenson, and then Heather Shanks and Holly Bergen on 1 point behind. So, yeah, all in play still from positions 2 down, I think, especially that second, third, fourth. Definitely could get those points back.
Solid ride back for Todd as I really like to see the effort she threw down before Breakaway Brave, but maybe Breakaway Brave reverse, maybe a little bit of a lesson of going early of how quickly you can find yourself out the back. But if that's all you, I mean, if you don't have that strong kick, trying to pull a fill pod as we saw earlier, perhaps, and almost pulled it off, but then chasing back on. Now, as you can see, Coldcloth and Stevenson, as well as Herbert Smith, really starting to get their separation here between them all. Now, Shanks sitting at the back. Is there anybody here? I'm looking at Shanks specifically. Is there anybody here that later on in the race we could see them come back? I mean, we saw massive comebacks in the men's race. Is there, do we have another silent assassin? Do we have somebody that perhaps can, make the big comeback like we saw in the men's race with a rider like Gary Pritchard? We saw, Gary Hamilton, not necessarily far up there, early points, but then falling back and then getting back forward. There's still a lot up for grabs with a lap and a half to go.
Yeah, I'd be looking at actually good timing. Heather Shanks, who's on screen, I'd be watching her a little bit as maybe that, quote unquote silent assassin that could come through here, because the 15-second power isn't bad in this group. Holdcroft, yes, has huge numbers, but she's off the front already. So this group is a lot more even. And we could see what happened with Natalie Stevenson, where she just, put her nose in the wind. She took a lot of energy, and maybe that's come back to hurt her a bit. So Shanks could be one to watch here for someone who could come through with this more attritional race in the last lap that's coming up. Now, reminder that the Clyde kicker is at kilometre 20.5. So just over 1 kilometre to go. And then they're going to hit that little climb again, and I would not be surprised to see the likes of Cuthbertson, Charlotte Coh, or even Todd, who we've seen kind of go on a few little raids, try and break away at the top of that, use some momentum, and break this group up into what would be more palatable, a group of 3 or 4.
Natalie Stevenson still has a lot to work with here. She may be able to pull something off. We'll have to wait and see how that's going to play out for her. We did see her off the back momentarily on that climb, and I think that put her out of the sprint. And maybe she sacrificed some points there from just a little bit of intentiveness, because she obviously came right back into the main pack over the top of the sprint. So I have a feeling that Stevenson, she may be somebody who's going to climb back into the overall as this race calms down, gets some sugar in the legs, finds her legs underneath her again, is able to perhaps, recover from some lost points and rally late in this race. But it's a good call from Todd. Let's see if she continues to do what we saw just a moment ago, and maybe put some of these ladies out the back, or at least catch them sleeping, I would say, and sneaks away with some points, as we saw Holcroft go over the top of grabbing those points for the Clyde kicker for the second time. It's an amazing race from Rio Holcroft. We can't talk about that enough. But now Herbert Smith to the front. The Riot team showing up.
Yeah, I love how you say there, Nathan, get some sugar in the legs. I would say more like get some sugar in the stomach. And so how do you put it in the legs? Just rub it on. Hope that it kind of absorbs into those quads as you're approaching the Clyde kicker. I love that terminology. All I'm picturing is these ladies just dousing themselves in some sugar in their pain caves. As we see Charlotte Coh, level 100, she knows what she's doing. She's got slightly less of that 15-second power than I talked about before with Heather Shanks. So, yeah, this would be one that she needs to start thinking about getting away into this last lap. They're going to take this right-hander. I'm interested to see who is motivated enough to push this over the top. They'll take the right, it'll kick up a little bit, flattens out, then that's perfect in that flat bit to get in a draft before you kick again.
Yeah, and here we go with Coldcloth now, 7.4 watts per kilogram. Nice little push from her as she looks to defend her second place currently overall. Burton's going to have to respond to this if she wants to grab that second place. Coldcloth here, did she go a little bit too early? It's going to be the big question. Up and out of saddle, as you can see her here. Nice little push up into 478, getting close to what she can hold for 15 seconds. But here comes Cuthbertson, but not enough. Look at Herbert Smith. Love to see this from her, grabbing points away from Natalie Stevenson, still riding herself into consistency, and with so many points at the finish line. I like this from the new Riot team member, Anna. This is massive, actually, in my opinion, as she continues to put herself among some really big names.
Yeah, and she almost got it too. She almost got into that third position. But we see Charlotte Coh here, early break, and that worked for her. That really worked. Cuthbertson coming into that third position. But Herbert Smith, she passed both Stevenson and Shanks in that last little moment. Just a really good kick. And I'd say from a new rider, it's just great because that timing is the thing that usually takes people the longest. A lot of people come onto Zwift and they have great power numbers. It's all good. They can sit at those watts all day long, but they don't have the what we call Zwiftcraft to be able to actually put those watts to good use. And yeah, it's really promising seeing Herbert Smith with almost that Zwiftcraft straight away. And then now to just be about working on that power to get ahead of the likes of Charlotte Coh. As we don't see anyone that's kind of broken away other than Holly Bergen, just dropped off the back there for a little, but no, they're all back together. Todd coming through with a bit of momentum. I don't think that's an attack off the front. I think she just came through, bit of momentum, all still staying together as they're about to start their last lap. Not long to go. We've got about 4.5 kilometers until the next point situation, where I would imagine a lot of these riders will have to go all in. Now, Herbert Smith, one thing I'd say, she's spent so long at the front of this pack. She needs to maybe just learn to sit in the pack, save the draft, and use those power numbers when it matters, not just sort of sitting on the front.
Yeah, it's a good point, because with Kirsty Herbert Smith, I am seeing It's almost coaching the rider as she goes here, because 4.2 watts per kilogram. She is the highest watts per kilogram besides Maria Holdcroft so far throughout the race. So obviously, a very consistent rider. What was her background that you had said? Is she a triathlete or a gravel rider? Like, what kind of a background did she have?
I want to say triathlete, but I could have that wrong. So we had two people both start our team in the last week, both names starting with K. So I'll come back to you on that one, Nathan. One was a triathlete and one wasn't. So I'll let you know. But from those numbers, I'm assuming it is Herbert Smith, because triathletes know how to hold a TT position for a long time. As we look at the live leaderboard coming in, we've got Holly Bergen on 1 point, Heather Shanks on 2, Natalie Stevenson, maybe a bit of a disappointing race for her, on 4 points. Kirsty Herbert-Smith on 6. Leah Cuthbertson really moved ahead there. She's now on 11 points. Charlotte Cochloff solidifying, I'd say, second place with 16. And Maria Holdcroft maxing out the points with 20.
Holdcroft doing the Holdcroft things. The silent assassin, not so silent here today in the UK Esports Championships, as Herbert Smith now back to the front again, 3.44.2, as we've got the TT effort, it looks like, all day long, perhaps. So maybe there'll be a little bit of a team meeting about how to ride amongst the pack. Obviously throwing down big power, but got to use the power at the exact right times. And maybe if she can reserve a little bit of something here and, make sure she times those sprints absolutely perfectly, there may be something still for her for a podium. But Cuthbertson's pretty far out at this point. She'd have to have some amazing last sprints. And I have a feeling from what we've seen so far, Cuthbertson always just within a couple of wheels of Charlotte Cochloff. So we'll see how that plays out. As we look at Kirsty Herbert-Smith, the new upstart, level 67, 17,000 kilometers, as you can see. She's got a solid 525, actually. That's a really good 15-second. If she can use that with the right kind of timing, I'd watch out for her. She's got to hit the timing right and reserve a little energy, though, before these sprints.
Yeah, and I can confirm she got welcome to our team, saying, "Welcome, Kirsty. She's from the UK, mum of 2, and former triathlete. So not a triathlete anymore, and a lover of Zwift." So there we go. She obviously knows a bit of Zwiftcraft here. She's got the watts, mum of 2, like Gabby has said in chat. She's got mum watts as well. We all know that the mums have some pretty big watts, because usually they try to get out a little bit of frustration or fatigue from the day into the pedals, so they can really call on those when they need them. So yeah, Kirsty Herbert-Smith with the Ironman watts we can see there. Great Britain age group representative, and has gone to Kona before, but husband trying to get her into pure cycling. What is pure cycling, Nathan?
You just don't wear weird outfits and actually ride your bike in packs and, think about sugar in legs and not the stomach. That's Holcroft 5-5 on the this I got, we've been focusing so much on this pack, but come on. We got to go back for just a moment. Holdcroft on the Tron, and all on Trons today, by the way. Nice little setup here from UK Esports. Nice to see them all showing off their special Trons. Very cool to see as Holdcroft continues to just ride away. And now I think this is nice for her. This is what I was talking about. Now that she has the distance, she doesn't have to be sitting at 5 watts per kilogram. She doesn't have to be doing over and over again these big kicks. She does 1 lap or 1.5 laps, solid little 30-minute effort, gets a threshold effort in, or even a 20-minute effort, and now she can find herself into a comfortable pace and do something that's somewhat of a zone 2 to zone 3 ride for herself and have a really solid race weekend still ahead of her. I think that was actually the goal from Holdcroft here, as we can see her at only 153 beats per minute. Obviously, one of the top athletes in the world, 4th at the World Championships this past year, just off the podium, and I think things only get better for Maria from here forward. I think that this is some breakthrough rides for her where you start seeing the possibilities that you actually have. You start to believe, and it can kind of motivate something more out of your body, out of the mind to go further than you've ever seen before.
The fact that she's still pushing orange numbers up these hills and just holding a casual 5 watts per kg while out the front shows the level of motivation she has, because she's won the race. She's over 2.5 minutes up on the field, but she is still pushing so hard. And I just love that tenacity. I've talked about it before, but yeah, she just shows huge motivation to stay there or thereabouts. And maybe this could be a bit of mental training for her, like I may be at the front, but in another race, you said she's got one on Sunday, there could be people with her and she needs to practice this. So yeah, great job from Maria Holdcroft, keeping that motivation high. We can see she's maxed out the points at 20 with Charlotte Coh 16 points behind, Leah Cuthbertson with 11 points. That is your top three. But Kirsty Herbert-Smith, she's going to have to go all in on these last 2 prime point positions and at the finish line to be able to challenge Charlotte Coh or Leah Cuthbertson for second and third place.
If we end up with similar point distributions, it really is almost solidified at this point, unless we end up with somebody falling way backwards and getting something like a, fifth or fourth in one of these sprints, with Charlotte Coh maybe not taking that third place points. So the distribution, also with less on the board there available, with Maria sweeping all those 5-pointers and the 10 point, it also brings the distribution down a little bit too. You have, less of a gap where there's opportunity to grab more points. So it's going to be interesting. We're not going to see a whole lot of movement here. Every last sprint matters that much more because of the reality of the points distribution not being spread out so much, with only 4 places available here. So taking that first across the line amongst this pack is that much more important. As you said, Kirsty here, she's got to win everyone from here on out, I think, to even be in the conversation, because those other 2 are going to be right on her heels.
Yeah, but we did see Kirsty Herbert-Smith on that Clyde kicker get very close to passing Cuthbertson. And if she can just do that in these last 2, she's obviously, done Ironman triathlons. She's represented at Kona, which is the World Championships. So this attritional race will suit her, because she may still have the power in this third lap. Whereas some of these others who may be more pure sprinters, maybe have lost a few watts here and there just with the amount of effort they've put in. So this will be really interesting as we're on this downhill. They're very, very much in a recovery mode, but let's see if some fireworks kick off as it goes up to that 7-8% grade in this little corkscrew climb before they hit another downhill and their last opportunity for some points. As we see, very different here from Heather Shanks, going a little bit early. Natalie Stevenson, keep an eye on her, because this is where she dropped last time. She's dropping again, just going behind Charlotte Coh, which is interesting. She's just sitting in the draft, not worrying, not putting in too much effort. And it's Cuthbertson who is now pushing some heavy watts, moving into the lead. And we've just seen Jones getting absolutely shelled off the back as Todd, who we haven't talked about in quite a while, but had made some moves in lap 1, moves to the front with Kirsty Herbert-Smith on her wheel. Now, Kirsty Herbert-Smith needs to take this opportunity to get on Cuthbertson as she rolls by and make some moves and break this pack now. She needs Charlotte Coh off the back.
Yeah, and it doesn't look like that's going to be happening, as Cuthbertson now shuts it down. Coh now quickly onto the wheel. It looks like Shanks now grabs the wheel as well, all back together. With a whittled down field like this, it does provide opportunities. It's a huge risk-reward moment. They're going to be heading downhill, and they'll be staying to the left here in just a moment, not going right. Again, with the breakaway Bray reverse for the 3rd time, and it's going to be T. Jones leading out. Electric Spear and Company. Now here comes Holly Bergen now reading through as well. A little bit of a roll through from her, backing off. Here comes Coh. Where's the setup? Where's the go point? Nobody wants to go too early. They do not want to be that lead out woman. Coh now 5.1 watts becomes big kick here from Charlotte, goes very early. Nobody grabbing the wheel actually, as T. Jones just sits. Cuthbertson now does not jump as well. Maybe settling perhaps for 3rd place, because she does not want Herbert-Smith to just grab her wheel and come up over the top. I think Coh might have this one with a walkaway effort, but actually here now comes Cuthbertson. Can Coh hold on to this? Cuthbertson now up into 7.1, 7.2 watts per kilogram. Coh has a solid kick still into the orange numbers. Leah's not going to be able to make this one happen. It looks like she's going to have to settle perhaps for 3rd. Shanks maybe over the top of her, though. Nice one from Heather Shanks. Shanks now perhaps grabbing points, but it's going to be Coh for that. Not first across the line, second across the line, as Holcroft was grabbing all the points earlier. Cuthbertson just barely, I think, Did she hold on to that? Did Shanks come over the top? I'm not sure.
Stevenson was right there as well. Let's have a look at the replay because that position 3 on was very confused at the end. Charlotte Coh, she took this out. She kind of went very early and then just held on to a threshold pace here while Cuthbertson was chasing from behind. Cuthbertson thought she was kind of easing in. She was doing all right, but Heather Shanks came here and look at Stevenson right there at the line. I'd be really interested to see what happened there. I think Cuthbertson got swamped, took it a little bit too easy, and 3 riders came over the top right at the end. So, yeah, not sure what happened there. Sort of got caught napping a bit. Always important to make the effort over the line. Then you can sit up. Never ever think that you're in a safe spot because the speed with some of these riders come from behind. We saw that in the men's race earlier, that Perrin just came with so much power and so much speed and momentum. So you've really got to be careful. Just don't ease up until you've gone over the line.
Well, this is interesting here now, as this person may have just sacrificed a lot of points there with the back off. Holcroft now, she's going to finish the race 5 minutes up the road. I don't even know how many minutes up the road, 3 minutes up the road at this point, it looks like. I mean, this is massive from Holcroft, just sweeping all the points. I'm looking at some of the points distribution: 5, 5, 5, 5 each time through. Sprint number 6, it'll be 5 points. And the finish line, going to get maximum points on the day for Cryo RDT. What a representation. And one thing I do want to talk about a little bit here for just a moment is how far Cryo RDT have come. How their representation at the highest level is so stamped at this point with a rider like Maria Holcroft. She has put them completely at the world stage within cycling esports. It's awesome to see here what Maria Holcroft has done for herself as well as that team overall.
Yeah, it is amazing to see in Cryo RDT, a team that has been around for so long. Great to see them really coming to the fore in the women's racing as well. Do want to note that as we were watching her along the flats before that bonus point section, she was riding at an RPM of 63 just on the flats. And you can just sort of tell she's sped it up now on the downhill, but, maybe she's doing a bit of resistance work as well, just having a low cadence, trying to keep the same power for, what is a 45-minute effort basically for her. So very interesting to see that. I'd be interested to hear if she's got any comments afterwards as to why she was keeping that kind of low cadence. I thought she might have moved that around a little bit. Yeah, just a little insight there as we see Jones heading to the front with Herbert Smith again near the front there, maybe using a little bit too many watts that she has suffered on with that last bonus section. Not too long to go now, about 1.5 kilometers until they hit this Clyde kicker, as we see these live points coming through. Leading the race, not surprisingly, is Maria Holdcroft on 25, but Charlotte Coh doing very well on 20. She is definitely solidified second place. I don't see anyone catching her now. Leah Cuthbertson with 13, Kirsty Herbert-Smith with 6, Natalie Stevenson very close to that now on 5, Heather Shanks also on 5 with Holly Bergen on 1.
And now as they head on over toward the Clyde kicker for the last time, what is available here? What can happen between these riders still is going to be a big question. I get the sense that between these riders, Cuthbertson and Kolkoff are going to be very, very tight. It's all about these final 2 sprints actually for second place. It's still all up for grabs actually, I think, between them as they make their way on over here. So it'll be interesting to see how this plays. Looking through here, Holcroft now almost 4 minutes up the road. She might finish with 5 as she continues at 5.4 watts per kilogram actually. And these riders all start to look at each other as Heber Smith again on the front, steady and just defending her position and getting a good workout perhaps out here today as well as she tries to press on. Todd now, is she going to pull another one of those moves? We've seen it time and again. Jones now up in a 5.3 for just a moment. That's going to be interesting.
I think that was just for positioning from Jones, sort of got up to the front and then very quickly kept back again. And here is the replay of the champion herself. Like you said, Nathan, not a silent assassin today, fully out there, taking the win. No sprint. Will she put in a little sprint? A few orange numbers? Will she get up out of the saddle here? No, she is pulling orange numbers right to the finish. Amazing race. She broke away from the start, kept it, gained her lead, probably finished with about 3.5 minutes. So Maria Holdcroft, Cycling Esport UK champion, as the rest of the riders hit their last opportunity for points. This is where some have got to go. If it was me, I would be going on this section and I would be holding it to the line. I'll be using it as a launch pad and just going all in to try and get some points on Charlotte Coh, who is just so far ahead and maybe a solidified second, but she's got to stay on the ball here and make sure she doesn't get swamped at the line, which is what we saw before with Cuthbertson.
Well, here we go into the final Clyde kicker right-hand turn in just a moment here. Todd Stevenson. Stevenson, can she grab any points that she's been so desperately looking for each and every time, but has faded? We saw her early on with some solid kicks. Coh now leading things out. Stevenson right on the wheel. The defense of the position, it looks like here for Cryo RDT. Stevenson only with 5.8 here as Coh continues to open up the gap here, and I think she's going to solidify her second place right here and right now. Cuthbertson, I think, waited just a little bit too long, perhaps, as Cuthbertson allowed. No, wow, am I going to eat those words here? Will she come through? She's on Stevenson's wheel. She's rolling through with the speed right to the line, but no, unable to do so. Stevenson now grabbing big points again. Suddenly, Natalie Stevenson is back in the conversation.
Yeah, we thought she was gone before, but obviously she's got the, what did you call it? Sugar in the legs, and she's doing well as we look at the replay. And you were saying here, Charlotte Coh looked like she had it here. Really big gap, and she eased off too much with Stevenson chasing so hard behind. Cuthbertson on that wheel, Heather Shanks too, and Kirsty Herbert-Smith all together. This meant that a breakaway was prevented. Cuthbertson, I think she took that over Stevenson. So it looks like second was Charlotte, because we do have Maria who's already gone through. And then it was the other two. So no one has managed to break away, but it looks as though Holly Bergen, Jones, and Todd have all been dropped. And Natalie Stevenson does not want to wait around. She wants to keep this group small and go for a sprint with this group. And this is a good break here from Natalie Stevenson. She's come back. She's come back into form. We can see her in the picture there. She is pushing hard. She looks better. Her shoulders aren't so tense. She's not sort of all over the bike. So good to see her rebound back as Jones has managed to catch back on.
Oof, it's tough. It's a good effort there from Stevenson, but it's really tough now that she gets caught, because that was a lot of effort right before things are about to kick off. This is for the 8 all the way through down to 8 points for second place. So we're talking about second place all the way down to 10th place. Do get points here. Big points for that second through 5th, though. And then just 1 point from 6th all the way down to 10th. Here we go into the final few meters. The setup, this is a really difficult sprint to set up for because of the downhill reality to it. If you do get a good jump on the rest of the field, it's hard to come around for it. Here's Herbert-Smith. Now Charlotte Coh going to be the first one to go. 5 watts per kilogram, it looks like, from Coh. Early kick, actually. Herbert-Smith now jumping onto that wheel. This might be a big kick here from Herbert-Smith. Might be able to throw it down, but Coh goes early. Cuthbertson with 10 watts per kilogram. Is she going to get a massive lead out from the rest of the riders? I have a feeling that it's going to actually be Cuthbertson with enough speed to come through. Massive kick. Shanks, though. What's going on with Heather Shanks? Is Shanks going to get the better even of Cuthbertson? I have a feeling that Shanks might be able to. No, it's Cuthbertson. Big points for her. That might be a big change up, because Coh faded toward the end there and went absolutely backwards as she was swamped at the line. Coh with the early go. It's so risky on the champion sprint.
Yeah, that was so close as Charlotte just moved backwards. Do you know how I knew Heather Shanks was going to do well on that sprint? Is she got a helper, I don't know who, to come behind and stand and hold the bike down. When you see someone having to hold the bike down, you know that they're going to be putting in some unbelievable watts. And that is what we saw from Shanks. Impressed there also with Herbert-Smith, who managed to sort of stay in touch, stay in the drafts, maybe doesn't have quite the kick that the others do. But yeah, that could have shaken up the points. So I'll be interested to see when those come through, who was managed to take second, third, fourth, fifth. As we know, Maria Holdcroft won it. But I think that could have been really, really mixed up a bit with Coh there just getting swamped.
Yeah, nicely done there, I think, from Cuthbertson, really keeping herself in the conversation. I mean, that came right down to the final sprint for who is going to be in the podium, second place for the podium overall, actually. Massive result, though, for Maria Holdcroft, just walking away right from the get-go, as we could see. We'll wait for the points to update here in just a moment. But, I want to talk a little bit about the reality of this event here today and the effort that's been put in by Cycling Esports UK, as well as the athletes showing up and what's been put together, I think, as a kickoff point in some ways for how we see the future of cycling esports develop a little bit, Anna.
Ah, it's amazing. I have not seen graphics, assets, live timing, the way that this was produced. I put into our Discord chat, this is amazing. This is so good. It adds that live sort of dynamic that we sometimes don't get with esport racing. You're sort of watching the avatars and it's not, as interesting as it could be. And I think this overlaid a real interest factor right from start to finish that, I haven't seen before. It's very exciting.
100%, absolutely love it. Also, just the reality I think of as these individuals and teams across the world coming from each one of the countries, really start to see as we're seeing from the UK here today, we had a really solid group of riders, a community of riders that showed up. They're battling it out specifically for the championship for the UK here. And we're starting to see this pop up all over the world more and more. And I think with recent announcements coming in from the UCI and really trying to push this forward, I have a feeling that the bringing together of the esports community with the traditional cycling community is the aim for groups like we see coming out of specifically an esports genre. So I just love what they've put together here. They put on an amazing show, and we just love to be a part of it.
Yeah, it's so great, isn't it? And this will really benefit the likes of someone like James Barnes. He can race for the UK Championship, the South African Championship, and the New Zealand Championship. I don't know if he's got any other countries.
That's been
on his
a talking
passport.
point. That's been a talking point, hasn't it? That wait a second. So how many in pre-productions? Wait, James is racing, and how many nationalities can you? How many national championships can you take? Then is going to be the big question. Because if you have dual citizenship or triple or quadruple citizenship, you could take all of them. You could take them all. I'm just going to go for every single one of them.
Exactly. But it is right, having these more nation type competitions, it already opens up a whole opportunity base, right? You could have the UK champion then come forward, then you've got the US champion, and then suddenly you can have like a champions league, right? Where all those champions come together to find the ultimate champion. It's great. I love it. I just love this format. I thought the race course was a good selection too. I was a bit like, oh, out of Scotland, is there enough going on that course to make this spicy? But I think with the bonus points on offer and the ability for breakaways, which we saw in both the men's and women's field, it was a good course. I liked it. Sometimes we think you have to put in a long climb, but that doesn't always actually work the way you want it to. Sometimes it just spreads it out so much that you're not left with much dynamics. So I thought also the course was a good selection today.
The course was really good. I really, again, also the ability to defend points positions as well as attack for more points positions, I think is a really good way to run a points race like this when you have a lot of opportunities to grab more and more and more. But it isn't like there's so much of a point spread that if you get points and there's a massive amount between like 10th all the way down to 20th, etc., you can end up in a situation where it's interesting. It depends on the size of the field too. I do feel like this was the perfect size of the field with the perfect number of points available across the entirety of the course. It was very well thought out, actually, by the organizers. And big shout out to Dean Cunningham. I know that him and Restart have put in a ton of work, actually. So nicely done with throwing this together real quickly.
Yeah, really impressive work. And I've seen Dean in the chat saying that this was actually harder than racing. So I'm not surprised, especially live productions. It's hard to sometimes get everything right. And I think this was just nailed as we wait for the live results to come in, which he has said are just on their way. And here we go. Right here. So the women's results at the finish line, it was Maria Holdcroft, who we saw, then Leah Cuthbertson, Heather Shanks, Kirsty Huber-Smith actually outkicked Charlotte Cochloff at the end. Unbelievable. Natalie Stevenson, Emma Todd, Holly Bergen, Tammy Lewis-Jones, and Mim Taylor. So yeah, that was an early move that did not work for Charlotte. Interesting.
Yeah, definitely interesting. I think for across the finish line, but this will be the final results then. Oh, just 2 points. It looks like, and I think it's going to be Charlotte. It is. She just was able to hold off. So at the finish line, Cuthbertson does get the better of the points, but it just wasn't quite enough. Kolkloff had to be another point, position back actually. If Stevenson, her teammate, if she would have came over the top of her, that may have lost her that second place. So just barely hanging on. This person now ends up in that third place. Heather Shanks, nice sprint to the line, taking that third place for the first across the line or the finish line, gets her into fourth, just over the top of. That was a battle right there for fourth and fifth, literally at the line. That was literally at the line, fourth and fifth place between them there, Anna.
Yeah, it really was. It shows how important, and especially this race, for those positions P2 and above, that you had to perform well at the finish line because it broke a lot of ties. And I think Charlotte Kokloff was lucky there, to be honest, to keep second place with how that finish line panned out.
Well, that's going to be it for us here for the results on the day in the Cycling Esports UK Championships. The winners, as you can see, the podium is there. It is Thomas Perrin with that 34 points. Gary Hamilton taking it down in second place with 22, and Gary Pritchard there with 14 points in third. Maria Holdcroft walks away with this one, a big 40 on the day. Charlotte Kolkloff for second place with 26, and Leah Cuthbertson for restart in third place. Massive for the championship for 2025. Awesome to see.
So good. I loved it. I loved all that racing, actually. That was really fantastic. The graphics brought it to life. The bonus points were amazing. Both races, for the women's positions 2 and above, it absolutely came down to the line. And for the men, same thing, sort of those positions 2 to 5. A lot of tie breaks happened on the finish line too, which you love to see. Keeps it exciting right to the end. That was great racing.
100%. Well, thanks everybody for tuning in with us today. We want to give a big shout out to everybody who was involved. Obviously, Restart presented by Alex Coh. ZMS Esports Studio, thanks for putting the productions on. Sponsored with LMNT, as well as today powered by Leadout. If you do want to check out the results, as well as more information about this specifically, head over to leadoutesports.com. You can check it out there. It's also leadoutesports.com/UK-2025. The results are live over there as well, and be on the lookout for more put on by Leadout in the coming months. Anna, thanks a lot for joining us today. Look forward to I do know you got plenty of DMs, I have a feeling, about having more conversations about esports in the near future, perhaps.
We'll see how that goes. It was fun. Have a check out of that podcast. We caught up on a whole year of activity, so it was a good one.
It was a good one. Thanks everybody for tuning in. For Anna and I, we'll see you next time that we're together. Thanks a lot, and ride on.